Today we're going to talk about our study guide. So I'm going to go over it pretty quickly, give you like 10 minutes of talking about, your study guide and just helping you to get those answers so that you will have some time to study, not be too concerned about looking for these answers in your notes. So, first question, and first of all, we've learned about the rise of monarchs, which is a rulership by a king or queen, and also we've done exploration and expansion of Europe. So, number one, why did Philippe II of Spain want to invade England? There are two reasons why he wanted to invade England. Queen Elizabeth is going to be the monarch of England during this time, and she's going to tell her English sailors that it's okay to raid Spanish ships that are going around the Atlantic Ocean. The second thing that's going to happen is that Philippe is going to be an avid, he is a serious Catholic monarch, and Elizabeth is a Protestant. Remember that Elizabeth's going to rule like her father and have that Church of England going on, and Philippe is not going to like that, and he wants to restore England to the Catholic faith. So he thinks that he can override and take over England and conquer Queen Elizabeth I with the Spanish Armada. So he wants to make England Catholic, and he also wants them to stop raiding the Spanish ships. What is an absolute monarch? I'm on number 2 now. An absolute monarch is a monarchy that has complete and unlimited power. The king has unlimited power. What he says goes, my way or the highway, and he has absolute power, complete power. A constitutional monarchy is going to be a monarchy where you still have a king and a queen, but they have documents like a constitution or a Bill of Rights that limits their powers and gives some power back to the people or the parliament or anything like the other government branches, and gives them some power, gives the people a voice or a say. So you need to understand the difference between an absolute monarchy is that the king has everything going on. The king rules everything, complete ownership of everything, whereas a constitutional monarchy offers the people a say, even though the king is still ruling. What is divine right? This is number 3. Divine right is going to be the concept that God has chosen the monarchs. So the monarchies are going to have an ideal that it is divine and heaven sent that I am king of England, or I am queen of Spain, or of the Holy Roman Empire. Like these people believe that God has chosen them. So the idea of divine right, it's going to affect their actions because they believe that all their behavior is justified by God and religion, and that they are possibly gods in a sense on the earth, that they rule for God on the earth, and they rule for God for the European countries, if that makes sense. Number 4, what was the Glorious Revolution? First of all, a lot of times when you guys think of revolution, you think of war or anything like this, but actually the Glorious Revolution is a bloodless transfer of power. And when I say bloodless, that means no bloodshed occurred. After the rule of James II, William and Mary is James II's daughter, will take the English throne, but only after signing the English Bill of Rights, which limited the power of the monarch and gave some of the power to Parliament. This is known as the Glorious Revolution. Also, we are going to have a change from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy with the Glorious Revolution. Number 5, what is a commonwealth? When we're talking about England, there will be a period of time where they revoke the idea of a monarchy, and they have the English Civil War. English Civil War is when two groups of English people are fighting each other. It's not we're fighting Spain or another country. When you have a civil war is amongst the people in the country. So during the English Civil War, what they're going to do is revoke this ideal of a monarchy, and they're going to adopt the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is going to be a government that is ruled for and by the people. It has a republican type government, where it's for the people. When we talk about a Commonwealth, Oliver Cromwell will take over the Commonwealth, but eventually Parliament will get rid of him and try to rule as the leadership role of the Commonwealth. Eventually, England will go back to monarchy. Number 6, what happened to the Spanish Armada? Spanish Armada is going to be when Philippe II, we talked about how he wants to invade England. He's going to take a fleet of ships and try to invade England. 2 things are going to happen. First of all, there are going to be a lot of storms that are going to damage the Spanish ships, as well as Sir Francis Drake is going to get out into the English Channel and areas like that and combat the Spanish ships and light them on fire. So the Spanish are going to be beaten down by the English. And the one thing the English have is the storms are on their side. So the storms already kind of take out some of the Spanish ships, and then the English have a tactic where they light ships on fire in the water, and it kind of weakens them. So the English are going to get the W, and you need to remember that the Spanish Armada is going to be a failure for Spain. Who was the chief minister of France during the reign of Louis XIV? It will be Jean-Baptiste Colbert. He's going to handle the money for Louis XIV. He's going to reform a lot of programs in France, and he's going to help Louis XIV and the kingdom be very wealthy. What did Louis XIV name his palace? It is the Palace of Versailles. It is an immaculate, beautiful, giant palace that shows off his status, and he had a great amount of servants there, and that is where he ruled. His government was from Versailles in France. Why did Peter the Great, I'm on number 9, desire to modernize Russia? Peter the Great wants to modernize Russia because he wants Russia to be modern, which modern means up to date in a sense, and he goes and tours all these other European nations like England and France and all those areas, and he sees how advanced they are, and he wants to bring that to Russia so Russia can keep up with these powerful monarchies and keep up with the technology that they had back then. So he wants to modernize Russia so that they can be a powerful force in Europe. The effects of smallpox on the natives in South America. The natives in South America, 90% of the population is going to die. So we're going to go from having 50 million Native Americans to 4 Native Americans. 4 million, not just 4, sorry. When you think about smallpox, you need to understand that it was a disease that the Native Americans had not built immunities to. Not that the natives were weak people. They're strong people, but they had never interacted with Europeans before. Europeans are carrying diseases that they've never seen. They don't have vaccines and medicines like we do now in modern technology for medicine. So these Native Americans are going to suffer from smallpox, and their population is going to go from 50 million to 4 million in just a matter of from about 2 to 3 years. It's not a very long time. It's not like a decade or a century. It's only like 2 to 3 years. These Native Americans are going to die from this disease. The first English colony in America that failed is going to be the lost colony of Roanoke, North Carolina. Keep in mind, you remember that these group of people had vanished. James White tries to come back and see what has happened to the colony, and they have disappeared. And so we consider that colony not successful because the colony did not last, the people did not stay, and the people didn't settle in that area, and we don't even to this day know what happened to them. Henry Hudson, his accomplishment and exploration for the Dutch. Henry Hudson's going to explore for the English and the Dutch, but one thing he does for the Dutch is that he's going to find the Hudson River, which is located in current-day New York. Number 13, in 1607, this settlement was first permanent settlement, which permanent means they stayed, and it's successful colony, and it is located in Jamestown, North Carolina. Remember we talked about that they had issues with their winter, 80% of their people died, but the other 20% lived. They suffered from malaria and things like that, and Jamestown is still a current place in Virginia. It was an English colony. Make sure you write that down. Number 14, what led to the decrease in population of indigenous populations in the colonies? I said population twice, excuse me. Indigenous people is another word for the people or native people of the land or the colonies. So people are going to enslave the Native Americans, they're going to pass diseases, and all around the Native Americans are going to be abused. And you need to understand that they're going to be abused because they're going to be enslaved and work land that originally belonged to them. They're also going to die from various diseases and be mistreated. Europeans come over to America and make it seem like it's a very friendly thing that's going on between them, but ultimately what you will learn is that the Europeans make nice for a while, and then eventually they take over and try to destroy the Native Americans and take their land and things from them. What is Middle Passage? Middle Passage is the voyage of slaves from Africa to the Americas, and it lasts from about 3 to 6 weeks. Remember we talked about how they're shackled to each other, chained to each other, and that they ride on the bottom of the ship, and there are thousands of them. What were the Europeans looking for when they set out to explore the world? A faster trade route to Asia, because they no longer wanted to pay the Italians and the Middle Eastern people to pass through. to go trade in China and India. So they want to find a faster trade route. Also, don't forget your 3 Gs, which is gold, God, and glory. What began the Atlantic slave trade? You're going to have a large population of the Native Americans are going to die. Africans have immunities that are built up against the diseases that Europeans carry. And so they need new people. So they're going to take these slaves from Africa. Remember that we talked about, when we talk about slavery, that African kings sold enslaved Africans, which means African kings would fight other tribes and take over a tribe and then sell those people they had taken over into slavery. And this was the beginning of the African slave trade because the Europeans had guns and manufactured goods that the Africans wanted, and in turn they gave them slaves, and the slaves were sent to the Americas to work the lands, to create those crops, which sent raw materials back to Europe. That's where you get triangular trade. That's where you get the Atlantic slave trade. Why did some Native Americans help Cortez when he arrived on Mexican soil? Remember that Moctezuma and the Aztec Empire is very powerful in Mexico but extremely cocky, and that a lot of tribes that have been taken over by the Aztec Empire is not going to like Moctezuma or the Aztecs, so they will join with Cortez. Also, Cortez, during this time, because they have never seen armor and shields and horses, a lot of these tribes believe that Cortez was a god on the earth. A conquistador, I'm on number 19, is a Spanish military leader that will fight against the natives in the Americas. And you need to remember that Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro were considered conquistadors because they conquered. Look at the root word of conquistador. Conquered is inside of there. In what way did the Renaissance lead to the age of exploration? The Renaissance is going to lead to the age of exploration because the Renaissance is going to cause people to be more educated. People are reading and they are questioning the world. So you're going to have a change from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance because in the Middle Ages, they call it the Dark Ages because you're dark in your mind. They're not as intelligent. And when we get to the Renaissance, they're going to say, hey, I read, I'm smarter, and what is out in that ocean? We should find out. And that's how the Renaissance is going to open people's minds. People are going to be educated, more intelligent, and want to know what is outside. Is there more things outside in this world than just Europe and Africa and Asia? Is there more out there? Number 21, a joint stock company. I talked to you about joint stock companies today. It's where you join and you share stock. So I compared it today in class to if Miss Cannon creates something super awesome like an invention, and I ask a couple people to invest in my idea. The concept of a joint stock company is that instead of you investing a large sum of money, that maybe you can invest a little bit and somebody else will and then another person, and then collaboratively or all together we'll all have enough money to invest in the project. And the good side about joint stock companies is if you make a profit, you all get to split the large amount of money that you acquire. But if you don't make a profit, or the invention or the exploration, the voyage out into the world is maybe a bust or doesn't work out, you only lose what you've invested. Mercantilism deals with the concept that a nation's strength is based off of its wealth in gold and silver, and it's going to tie in the relationship between imports and exports, and that you have to have a favorable balance of trade. Also, do not forget that it is going to discuss the concept of balancing those imports and those exports, but also that it's going to talk about mother country relationships, as in England and their colonies and Spain's colonies, and how colonies do not trade with other nations, but only the nation that they belong to. So colonies are established to create revenue, which would be money, or materials for the mother country, and they are tied to them. It's just like a mama. And a mama has babies, and they take care of their babies, and their babies love on them. And the way colonies show love to their mother country is providing raw materials and money. And what the mother country ends up doing is making those raw materials and things like that into manufactured goods. So keep in mind, mercantilism is going to deal with a nation's strength is built off of its wealth in gold and silver. You have to compete with other nations. You need a favorable balance of trade with imports and exports. And also that's going to deal with the mother country and colonies and their relationship. What is the Columbian Exchange? Columbian Exchange is going to be the exchange of goods between the Old World. The Old World is Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the New World, which is North America and South America. What were some of the effects on natives? Natives are going to suffer from many diseases, and I know Miss Cannon has talked about it 5 times, but it is the truth. They are really going to suffer from a lot of disease. The relationship between Native Americans and Europeans, they will trade. There are going to be wonderful things like pineapples and chocolate, like cocoa beans and all that stuff that has come from the New World, and the Europeans are going to be very excited about it. And the natives are going to be excited about things like horses and cattle and coffee beans and things that they've never seen. So the Europeans and the Native Americans are going to exchange these goods. But the downside is that the Europeans will also give the natives diseases. They will fight over land and territory because the natives are sitting on gold and silver, and the Europeans realize that, and they are going to want to take advantage of that and steal that from the natives and take their land and make the natives work the land they originally owned. Also, the triangular trade model. You need to be able to, and I'm going to be looking for this on your study guide tomorrow, you need to be able to show me the triangular trade model between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. And you know that Europe is going to be sending manufactured goods to Africa. Africa is going to send slaves to the Americas, and the Americas is going to send raw material to Europe. Make sure that you put a detailed account on there. I would also include Middle Passage, which once again is the voyage of slaves to the Americas. Number 25, I will be looking tomorrow to see your explorer's chart, and you should have it filled out because Miss Cannon taught it in class. If you have any questions, feel free to text Miss Cannon at 252-564-9506, and you can also check my Twitter at Miss Cannon Like Gun. Thank you.